being together, and on this day we will be talking about the 5E approach to teaching science. I'm sure you have heard about this approach. If you have heard, please write yes in the chat box. Have you heard of teaching strategy 5E approach? Yes, very nice. So you can all tell me in the chat box what are the 5 steps of this teaching strategy. And what I will do is take an example of a particular lesson and then show how we can apply it beautifully to this. Right. So now if you can see my PPT, can you see the PPT? No, I don't know what's, why PPT is not shared. Is PPT shared now? Can somebody confirm? Okay. So if you're able to see, so this is the this is the strategy where you engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. I'm sure every one of you knows this by heart now because you must have attended many webinars on this. But just to revise a little bit, in engage stage, we establish the relevancy. We help the learner determine the need of learning new concepts. So we create such a situation so that the learner is tempted to go deeper into that particular topic. The next stage is explore, where we present the content and help the learner understand concepts, processes, procedures, facts, or principles. Again, we create such an atmosphere in the class so that the learner himself raises questions and himself wants to explore ideas to find answers to those questions. And then the next stage is after exploring, the learner explains and the understanding is improved by making him express new learning and provide guidance. Okay. So when the child explains to us what he has learned after exploration, we are helping him to bring out his understanding in his own words, and then we can also provide our guidance by correcting if there are any misconceptions. Then out of this explanation, new questions may arise in the classroom, and in fact, we must encourage new questions. And then we can construct new learning in the next stage, which is the elaborate stage. So now we help the learner apply prior learning and then acquire him, help him in acquiring new learnings. And then final stage is evaluate, where we assess learning, help learner measure learning against the corresponding goals. Now, before we do the assessment of learning, we also may have here assessment as learning and assessment for learning. And then finally comes the assessment of in the traditional form, that is assessment of whatever has been learned. So this is the 5E approach in brief. And now we will apply this approach on a particular chapter to understand it more deeply. And that chapter is the digestive system. Now this chapter is taught in many schools, even in class 4, 5 at a very surface level. And then when we go deeper into it, we are talking about grade 6, 7, 8. So write in the chat box in which grade or in which class are you teaching digestive system. Write in the chat box so that I know that you are talking about digestive system in your classrooms or not. So let me see your comments. Are you talking about this in your classroom? Okay. Right. So let me just go forward. So first thing is, whenever we implement this approach in any lesson, we have to have a lesson plan in which we have to have the learning outcomes. So first we write the learning outcomes. What are those learning outcomes? Now we know that there are cognitive learning outcomes. First domain is cognitive domain. So let us say we have these learning outcomes: differentiate between different types of teeth, identify and locate major organs of the digestive system, describe the major function of digestive system as well as its parts, and differentiate between two types of digestive processes. So this is the cognitive domain. But other than cognitive domain, we must also have learning outcomes in affective domain. Now in affective domain, what are our learning outcomes? We want the child to willingly participate in group activities, listen to others with respect, advocate for good teeth care and eating practices, and reflect on the importance of teeth care and eating practices. Okay. And then after cognitive and affective domains, we also have psychomotor domain. So what are our learning outcomes? What do we expect the children to be able to do in psychomotor domain after we have completed the lesson plan? We expect him to draw a system diagram of the digestive system. We expect him to make a model to show how food moves through the food pipe. We want the child to design a way to demonstrate how small intestine fits into the body, and we want the learner to demonstrate two ways of breaking down food. So these are the learning outcomes that we have. So let us see how we are approaching these learning outcomes with our 5E approach. So the first stage is engage. How do we engage the children? So here is the set of pictures that I am going to show. In the first picture, the cow is beating the banana. In the second picture, going clockwise, this girl is eating the banana. In the third picture, monkey is eating banana. And in the fourth picture, elephant is eating banana. So the question you ask the children is, how does the banana become you? If the cow eats, the banana becomes cow. If the child eats, the banana becomes the human being. If a monkey eats the banana, the same banana becomes the monkey. And if the same banana is eaten by an elephant, it becomes part of an elephant. In all four different species, the banana becomes that particular species which eats it, and it loses its identity as banana. So how is it that same thing is eaten by four different species and it becomes those species and it is such a wonder. So this is the question that you ask the children. What would you say? How does the banana become you? Tell me in the chat box. How does it become you? When you eat a banana, it becomes you. When you eat a chapati, it becomes you. When you drink a cold drink, it becomes you. It doesn't remain a cold drink. So, how do you transform that? What is that power of creation in our body which transforms what you eat, right? So, this is the hook. This is the question that engages the children. Now you may give chicky in the classroom, small pieces of chicky in the classroom, and we may say, what will finally happen to chicky if you eat it? So tell me in the chat box, what do you think will happen to chicky if you eat it? So all of us are enjoying the sweet taste of chicky in our mouth, and then we are thinking about what will happen to chicky finally, what will happen to chicky when we eat it. So next stage after asking these questions is explore. Now, how do we allow the children to explore the answers to these questions? When they first we have hooked them on this question that how does banana become you? Then we have given them a beautiful experience of eating chicky, and then I think we have set the stage for them to explore with this beautiful taste of chicky in their mouth. So the question to ask is, what all actions did you do before swallowing the chicky? So please write in the chat box, what actions will you do before you swallow the chicky? Right? So, can you say what all you are going to do? I hope you are writing in the chat box. Nobody is writing in the chat box. What will you do before you swallow the chicky? Please write in the chat box. What will you do? Insha ma'am, are they writing in the chat box? Can you read out some answer? Am I audible? I can't see any answers in the chat box. I don't know whether anybody is writing or not. Am I audible? Can somebody reply if I'm audible? I'm not sure why there is no reply on the chat box. Anyway, so my question is, what all actions did you do before swallowing? What do you think is the purpose of this question? The purpose is the children will observe their own actions, right? So they will say, I chewed it. Hello? They might say, we chewed it. So then you might ask that why did you chew? How did it taste? So the two things is, why did you uh, chew, and then how did it taste? That means they are aware that the need to chew it is there, but why they have to chew, they might be able to tell you that they wanted to break it into pieces. And then they also become aware at the same time that there are taste buds on their tongue which allow them the sensation of different kinds of taste. And then they might also tell you that there was a lot of uh, uh, saliva in their mouth. मुंह में पानी आ गया उनको चिक्की देखकर, right? And then you might ask, what do you think is the role of saliva? Then they might say this is to wet the food so that we can swallow it properly. But then you might also tell them this. You give them a small piece of chapati and then you ask them to chew it, and then you ask them where did it go. But before that, you also ask them that when you continue to chew the chapati, how does it start tasting? What is the difference in its taste when you put it in the mouth and then when you are about to swallow? How does it feel? Some of them might say that it starts feeling sweet. So how does it change from being just a bland taste to being sweet? That means something is making it sweet, and that is the beginning of the process of digestion, right? So then you might ask them that where did it go? So they might give you different answers. What do you think they will answer? Where did it go? They will say it went to the stomach. Okay, they may be young children as well. So then you ask them that how do you know that it went to the stomach? So hear their answers. See, the point is that it's not important that they should tell us correctly. What is important is they should tell us what they're thinking, because we want to know whether they are exploring in the right direction or not. And if whether they are even if they're exploring in wrong direction, then it should be visible to us. We should be able to see where their thoughts are leading, and if they are not going in correct direction, what are the misconceptions that they are having? Okay, for example, when I was young, I used to think that my sweets go to one bag and the food goes to a second bag and the fruits go to a third bag, right? So there might be misconceptions like this. So ask the children that how do you know? They might say that I felt my stomach heavy, or I can feel it going down the food pipe, right? Then you might ask, if they say that it went to my stomach, I can feel it, then ask them, how did it get there? Then they might say, I felt it going there through the chest. It was, I felt something going down. Okay. So basically, we are asking them to observe and explore their own system more closely as they can observe it from the sensations that they are getting, right? Then ask them that why do you think it was going slowly? Some of them might say that it was sticking in my chest. Then ask them that why do you think it did not drop down? धप से क्यों नहीं नीचे गिर गया? Then listen to their ideas, that what do they say, that why it did not drop down. Somebody might say that I would have heard the sound if it had dropped down, but somebody might say that if it had dropped down it might hurt my stomach or something like that. So listen what they're saying. So then you ask them, okay, so if you think that it went to the stomach, then what happened to it in the stomach? So you see, what we are doing is by asking these questions, we are helping the children to explore the digestive system. We are not telling them anything directly. We are not showing them the diagrams and telling them the technical terms or big definitions. No, we are just asking them to activate their observational power, their thinking power, and the ideas they have, preliminary ideas that they have about where food goes and how it goes, and then what happens to it once it reaches the stomach. So that is what we are aiming at. So when you ask what happened to it there, they might say something. Then you ask them, do you think it changes there? Like it changed in their mouth. It when the chapati was put in the mouth, it had a bland taste. But if they chewed it enough before swallowing, it became sweet. So on the same lines, you ask them that do you think it when it went to your stomach, it changes there? So they might say that yes. Then you ask them, but how do you know that it changes? Now, if you were in the child's place, what would you say, that how do you know that the food changed once it went to your stomach? What will you say? I cannot see if anybody is writing in the chat box. Insha ma'am, can you kindly speak out if you can read the chat box? I request you to read the answers in the chat box. Are you there? Nobody is there. I'm sorry. Okay. So some child might say that I know it changes because sometimes when we vomit, we see that it has changed. Though some part of it looks similar to what we ate. Hello? Hello? All right. All right. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm told that the chat box has been disabled, so you're not able to write in the chat box. That's okay. So what I was saying is the children might say that sometimes we have seen people vomiting, and in the vomit we can see some part of it is similar to what we eat, but other part is yellow, or it is like a paste and it is smelling, and or it has become liquid, and while vomiting we feel that it's become very sour, or it is tangy, so it has become acidic. So these questions are helping the children to observe more things which they might have observed. They will come out with those observations, they will come into their conscious focus. And then you might ask that why do you think it needed to change in our stomach, right? So now they know that it has gone to the stomach, it has changed because they've seen people vomiting. And then they might think that why did it need to change? That is the question. So let us hear what the children have to say, that why did it need to change? Okay. Some might say because we get energy from the food, so the body wanted energy. Somebody might say that we wanted some nutrients and it wanted to change. So but then to get the energy and to get the nutrients, why does it need to change? Why can't the nutrient and energy be directly taken from the food that we eat in the same form? Why does it need to change? So that is the question to answer. So let them experiment and let them then explain. So how do we make them experiment? So first thing we can do is you can take a balloon, okay, and take the neck of the balloon and you can take some ball of clay modeling. Put the ball of the clay modeling from the top and then ask the children that does it drop down from the other end of the balloon which you have cut off. You have taken a long balloon and you have cut off the one end, and the mouth is the neck of the balloon is in your hand, and you put a ball of clay modeling to make it pass through the balloon. So ask them that why doesn't the clay of ball fall down from the other end? So the children might say because the balloon is holding them, holding the ball. So then you say that, ask them, then how can we make it reach the other end? So the children might tell you that if you press from the top and you push it forward, then you can make the balls of clay slide forward. So you ask them that, do you think something similar happens in your when you swallow the food? The food doesn't drop down directly in your stomach, but something is pushing the food that you have eaten in small portions forward. The children might say yes, and then you ask them that why do you think it needs to be pushed bit by bit and not directly, so that it doesn't fall in the stomach directly? Why does the body need to do that? Then you might take a stethoscope, make one child lie down, and then put the flat round disc of the stethoscope at different places on the stomach, and put the other two ends in the ears and make them listen. Because when the food is getting digested, there are a lot of sounds we can hear sometimes even without the stethoscope. So many times हमारा पेट बोलता रहता है, आवाजें करता रहता है जब फूड डाइजेस्ट होता है, बट हम बच्चों को स्टेथोस्कोप की मदद से उसको और भी मैग्नीफाई करके सुना सकते हैं. तो दैट आस्क देम कि व्हाई इज इट मेकिंग साउंड and what kind of sound is made, and then where do you think such sounds can be made. So they might come out with saying that कभी जब कोई चीज चर्न होती है, मिलती है, गोल गोल घूमती है या टकराती है, तो इस तरह की साउंड्स निकल कर आती हैं. सो दे माइट रियलाइज कि कभी कोई चीजें तोड़ी जाती हैं तो भी इस तरह की आवाजें आ सकती हैं. And then you can give them this data. You can tell them that the length of our mouth is 8 centimeters. The food pipe through which the food goes is 26 centimeters. And then the food goes into an organ called stomach, which has the length of 16 centimeters. And then after processing happens in the stomach, it goes to another organ called small intestine, which is of 7 centimeters length. And then from there, some nutrients are taken out, and then the leftover goes to large intestine, which is 1.5 meter long. And there, the liquid part is absorbed, and then it goes to rectum, which is 15 centimeters. Now, if you have a large intestine of 1.5 meter long and a small intestine which is 7 meters long, that is, make them notice the length. So, is the small intestine of smaller length or large intestine of smaller length? So, when they read the lengths, one is 7 meters and the other is only 1.5 meters long, but it is called large intestine, and the one which is actually longer is called small intestine. So you might ask them that what do you think is small about the small intestine when its length is larger? Why are we calling it small intestine? And why we are calling the smaller length intestine as large intestine? And then you might give them this long thread of 7 meters, and then you might give them a stocking or some other kind of net kind of thing which is 1.5 meter long, and you ask them to spread it on the floor. And then they spread it on the floor, they see that 7 meters is such a long length, and added to that this 1.5 meter is 8.5 meter. So 8.5 meter long intestine how does it even fit in our body? Now, before you go further, ask them that in what way do you think you can fit it in our stomach, and you allow them to measure the length and breadth of the stomach. They can measure it for each other, that from the ribs downwards till our hips, you can allow them to measure their body dimensions, and ask them that how do you think in this 40 centimeter or 50 centimeter by 50 centimeter area, such a large intestine can fit in. Now allow them to make different kinds of drawings, right? And then they might realize how it might fit in. They might draw that zigzag shape. And then you allow them to even explore further. You can take these stockings. एक चीज होती है ना, लंबे लंबे मोजे होते हैं, बहुत लंबे नायलॉन के स्टॉकिंग्स जिनको कहते हैं, जो बहुत कोल्ड कंट्रीज में लोग पहनते हैं. इवन इन इंडिया नाउडेज दे आर अवेलेबल बिकॉज ऑफिस गोइंग गर्ल्स वेयर द स्टॉकिंग्स. सो देन ऑल्सो आप एक डब्बे में ये पल्प बना सकते हैं, ब्रेड का पल्प बना सकते हैं, and then you put it in this stocking and then press it, so it goes forward, and at the same time some liquidy thing comes out which you can collect in another box, and that will give them an experience of how the small intestine makes the food move forward, and then it when you press it forward from its net like mesh like जो जाली होती है, उसमें से छोटे छोटे पार्टिकल्स जो हैं वो दोनों तरफ बाहर आने लगते हैं. तो दैट टेल्स देम कि ये इंटेस्टाइन क्या करता है कि बड़े पार्ट जब लिवर में मैशअप हो गया फूड, तो उसके बाद इसकी जाली में से छोटी छोटे जो पार्ट्स हैं वो जैसे निकल रहे हैं उनको बॉडी एब्जॉर्ब कर लेती है, और फिर ये और पुश करके बिग इंस्टेंट लार्ज इंटेस्टाइन में जाता है, और वहां से बाकी चीजें एब्जॉर्ब हो जाती हैं. एम आई टेलिंग यू द राइट थिंग और नॉट द राइट थिंग? कैन समबडी टेल मी? Oh, I'm so sorry. Today the chat box is in not able, so disabled, so you won't be able to write. And then we can also demonstrate the digestive process. How we can demonstrate? We can tell them that when you chewed the food in your mouth, you mixed it with saliva. If there was no saliva, would you be able to chew the food properly? So they would say that no, mixing with saliva helps us to chew, and this can be demonstrated. आप एक यहाँ पर हाथ में आप पेपर नैपकिन ले लीजिए, नीचे आपने एक बोल ले ली है जो यहाँ पे दिख रही है, जैसे just a minute, highlight laser. So here there is a paper napkin in which you have put some bread pieces, which bread has been little bit wetted. अब गीली करके आपने ब्रेड डाला, उसको दबा दबा के आप नीचे लाए और वो इस बॉक्स इसमें गिर गया. मतलब आपने जो एसोफेगस है या जो आपका फूड पाइप है उसका एक्शन डिमॉन्स्ट्रेट कर दिया. एंड देन व्हेन यू ब्रिंग इट इन इस बोल में ले आए, अब इसमें आप थोड़ा सा पानी मिला दीजिए और हाथ से आप उसको चूरा कर करके दिखाइए. तो ये जो प्रोसेस है, हाथ से आप काफी कुछ चूरा कर रहे हैं, ये प्रोसेस आपने माउथ में भी किया, लेकिन ये प्रोसेस आपके स्टमक में भी होगा, बिकॉज व्हेन द फूड इज चर्निंग then physically it is being broken, but then you add some vinegar. जो आपने हाथ से चूरा कर दिया उसमें आप थोड़ा सा विनेगर मिलाइए, और जब आप विनेगर मिलाएंगे और उसको हिलाएंगे तो आप देखेंगे कि बहुत ही छोटे छोटे पीसेस हो जाते हैं उसके. And that tells you that there is another kind of breaking process in the intestine, in the stomach. And that breaking procedure is a chemical process where acid is acting upon the food and breaking it to a very fine, into very fine pieces. So one process is physical process of chewing and pounding the food against each other. Chewing happens in the mouth, but the pounding happens in the stomach. So that is a physical process of breaking down. But in the stomach, you also have acidic juices, and those juices are also breaking it down, but they are breaking it down into very, very fine pieces. And this is not possible physically. That small breaking into that small pieces is not possible physically. It is possible only through a chemical process by the action of acids. That is what we are trying to show to the children. And why do we need it to be broken into such fine pieces? Because the body can absorb it only in such small pieces. And when the body breaks a banana by chewing and then physical pounding in the stomach and then by chemical breaking, it becomes into such small pieces which are different from banana. And now these pieces, when they will be absorbed in intestine, and then some part will be absorbed in the large intestine, and the part which body will just not be able to use, they go to the rectum. Now the parts which have been absorbed by the intestine and the parts which have been small intestine and the parts which have been absorbed by the large intestine, they change into the form that the body can use. So the banana is no more banana. Now the banana has changed into parts which can be used as nutrients, which can be used for as energy resources by our body. So banana has transformed into parts of our own body. So this is the whole digestive process, which is demonstrated by this through single demonstration. And then when we go further, now we can also ask them to tell us what is digestion, but at the same time, we can also show them through a song. So audible to you. So these are the sounds that happen in the stomach. So digestion is about adding acids in the stomach and breaking the food. So, when before showing this, you have already asked the children to explain what they have understood through the demonstration and through the exploration. And then they will also answer that why small intestine, even though larger, is called small intestine, because the diameter is smaller, and the large intestine is larger in diameter, not in length. So all these things they might explain, and even if there are some gaps in their understanding, you can show them this video, and which will fill up the gaps in their understanding. So all throughout, we are not directly teaching them things. We are allowing them to construct their own knowledge. You must have attended many webinars on constructivism or active learning. So here the children are actively participating in everything, and they are actively constructing their own knowledge. So going further now, let me take it further. Now the children have to elaborate. Okay. So in this stage of elaboration, we might ask them, what do you think is the process from wheat in the fields to the roti? So do they understand that from in this transformation of wheat growing in the agricultural fields to becoming a roti, there is a whole process, and we can show them these pictures and tell them to tell you how it becomes a roti, how it becomes a chapati. So they will tell us that the farmers grow wheat in the fields, and then these ये जो गेहूं की बाली हैं इनको तोड़ लेते हैं, and then they are rubbed to take out the wheat grains, and then the wheat grains are taken for grinding in the chakki, and from the atta we then make a dough mixing water with it, and then we make the roti. बेलन और चकला लेकर हम रोटी बनाते हैं, और फिर उसको हम गैस के ऊपर या तवे के ऊपर सेकते हैं, और फिर वो फाइनली रोटी बनती है. सो वाई वी हैव टू मेक दिस रोटी? हम सीधा गेहूं की बाली क्यों नहीं खा जाते? हम इसलिए नहीं खा सकते क्योंकि वो हमारी बॉडी प्रोसेस नहीं कर सकती है. हमें बॉडी को जिस फॉर्म में चाहिए उस फॉर्म में लाने के लिए वी हैव टू मेक इट गो थ्रू अ होल प्रोसेस. सो दिस इज द प्रोसेस ऑफ ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन फ्रॉम दीज ये जो गेहूं की बाली है वहां से लेके चपाती तक. एंड द सेम वे even the chapati, when we put it in our mouth, has to be processed finally to go to the form which is absorbable by the body, and to that size also which the body can absorb. So that process of transformation is digestion. And just as we require different instruments, tools to bring the wheat from the grain stage to the chapati stage, there are a lot of tools required, lot of equipment required. Same way, our body also has to have those tools, and those tools are our teeth, our tongue, our saliva, our food pipe, our stomach, our small intestine, our big intestine, and then finally the anus. So all these are the body's equipment to transform the food into the form that we can take. And once we take in that food becomes us. It does not remain wheat, or it does not remain banana, right? So this is what we can elaborate further in this process. Then we can also elaborate it further by connecting it to other organs in the body. So what are the other organs? So एक organ, can anybody recognize what is this particular organ? Is it a gallbladder, or what it is? So let them recognize this, let them research, and then ask them that what is the need of these organs when the body is digesting in the stomach, in the small intestine, in the large intestine. What is the use of this gallbladder and other organs, where your pancreas? So they might be able to tell you that maybe these things are also secreting some chemicals which is needed, which is helpful in digestion. So let the children understand that these organs are connected to the small intestine or stomach. So they must be also giving out some secretion which is helpful. Then how our blood system is connected? How our blood system is connected to the digestive system? So these are the other organs. Even blood is like an organ. So these are the three different organs, and then you might be able to help them with the role of these three organs. The blood will take the nutrients from one part of the body to the other part. So from where is the blood getting the nutrients? Definitely it must be getting from the intestines, because intestines are the organs or the tools which are absorbing the nutrients, or the large intestine is the one which is absorbing some liquid part. So blood must definitely be in contact with them. So how is the blood in contact with those organs? So these are the points which you will bring to the notice of the children, and they will explore and think about it. Then you show them this system of, show them these things. One is a refill, there is a small spring, then there is this body of the pen, and that is the cap. So ask them that, is this a system? What will you say, whether it is a system or not a system? I would say that no, this is not a system unless it is put together in a proper form and it is able to fulfill the function of the system called pen. It would not be called a system. So for some parts to come together and work as a system means that they together are able to fulfill the goal or the purpose or the function of the system. Individually they might have different roles, but together they should be able to uh, uh, realize the function of the whole system. So the refill might provide the ink, the spring may provide the necessary dynamics for pressing it forward, the body may house the spring and the refill, and the cap may help the refill to be pushed forward with the help of the spring. But ultimately it should be able to write on a paper. So same way, just esophagus does not make any sense. Just the teeth alone, the tongue alone, the stomach alone, the intestine, large intestine alone, and the small intestine alone, or the anus alone cannot do anything. Only when each of them come together and fit with each other in a proper way, along with the pancreas and the gallbladder and the blood, then together they all come and create the purpose, fulfill the purpose of making a foreign object broken down and take out what is needed from here and discard the rest. That is the purpose of this system, and then this system should nurture the body function. So that is the meaning of a system, and that is why we call it digestive system. Okay, so make them understand that a system is made up of parts, but each of the parts may have an individual role, but then together the system has a larger role. The role of the system is much more than the sum of the roles of the individual parts. That is what we must explain about a system. And then the last stage is evaluate, of course. You need the children to evaluate. And then we also need to evaluate whether the children have understood or not. So evaluate stage has a two-part focus. First part is we must offer some exercises to the students, to the learners, so that they can evaluate the choices that are offered to them, right? So how will you make them do that? So show them these pictures and you ask them that which one do you think is a flesh-eating animal and which one was not flesh-eating animal, because you have taught them earlier the role of different teeth, which I did not take up really in this particular session. I just went forward with the role of the tongue and the food pipe in chewing, in making mixing with saliva and then making it suitable for gulping down. I did not take up the role of each type of teeth, but you would be doing it in the classroom. So to understand whether children are able to evaluate that or not, then you would give this photograph. So the children might say that these two teeth here in the front are the teeth which are made for tearing into something, and these are the kind of teeth which are for chewing. These are the teeth which are for chewing. So this animal doesn't need to tear into something, but this animal must be tearing into something. So this must be the flesh eating animal, and this must be the non flesh eating animal. So first you are asking the children to decide which one is flesh eating and which one is not. And then you ask them that what makes you say that? And that is when they will tell you that why they are thinking that the left picture shows flesh eating animal and the right one is not flesh eating animal. So you made the children take a stand and then justify their stand. So that is what is critical thinking. So they are making a choice and then they're evaluating their choice and then they're telling you why they made that choice by thinking about their own thinking. So our purpose of making them think critically is also solved. Then I go forward and then you show them this is one pipe, maybe copper pipe, or you can take a PVC pipe, and then you show them a tube, a toothpaste tube, and you ask them that which one can better represent the action in esophagus. Now they've already seen the function of balloon. They have themselves pushed the pipe. They have themselves pushed the balloon. They have themselves pushed the stockings. So they understand that when the food is going down, it should not drop down. It is not dropping down straight away into stomach. It is being pushed little by little forward. So then if they understand that, they would choose which one. They would certainly not choose the pipe, but they will choose the toothpaste tube, because that is where we allow the toothpaste to come out by pressing and pushing it forward. Now you can ask them that what is the harm if there was a pipe like this pipe or a PVC pipe. If they come out with answers, you will be surprised at how beautifully children think. And if you come out with answers, maybe you will not be able to come out with so many options. But think, if you had such a solid pipe for a food pipe, will you be able to bend easily? Might it hurt you? Even if it is made like a bone, hollow bone, it will not allow you to bend very easily if it is in a single piece, right? So the children may come out with other options as well. Then you can, now is the assessment of learning. The earlier, the first one was also assessment of learning. Second one was more of assessment for learning. Now this is assessment of learning. The organ which breaks the food into smallest parts. Which one would you select? Would it be mouth? Would it be in stomach? Would it be small intestine? So now they know that small intestine में से जब फूड छन छन के जाली से बाहर निकलता है तो वो छोटे छोटे पीसेस में निकलता है. स्टमक में नहीं इतने छोटे छोटे पीसेस हो रहे. So it is the small intestine which is finally breaking it into much smaller pieces. And then again assessment for learning. Ask them, what about a protection suit for a ride through the digestive system? Supposing you became a very, very small human being, and then you had to travel from the mouth to the anus through the digestive system. Would you require a protection suit like the astronauts wear a space suit? And what kind of protection suit? Ask them to design one. So first they will think, why do I require a protection? What would saliva do to them if they did not wear a protection suit? What would the acids in the stomach do to them? What would the intestine do to them, the smaller or the larger one, if they did not wear a protection suit. And that will clarify totally the role of each part of the digestive system, right? So that is all from my side today. So we have seen how we can apply the 5E approach to the digestive system, how we engage them, how we make them explore, how we make them explain, and then how we fill up the gaps in their understanding and we elaborate, make them explore further, and then finally make them evaluate and we also evaluate their learning. And these are my contact details. If you wish to contact me for anything, any further understanding, you can do it at this email ID. And on my Facebook and LinkedIn, you can go to my Facebook and put your comments or your queries over there, which you would like me to explain probably about this approach or maybe some other topics that you would like me to take up in future. But do put your comments on the Facebook tonight because I will be writing about this today in a post. Thank you so much. So stop this. I'm stopping the video. Sorry. I'm stopping the sharing. How do I stop? Yes, here it is. So, ma'am, if you enable the chat box now, because in the beginning I saw them writing on the chat box. If there are any questions, there are still 8 minutes to go. I can take up those questions if you enable the chat box. I request the host to enable the chat box.
Actually, ma'am, there is a technical error.
Okay. Okay. So if there is a technical error, obviously now I cannot make them enjoy further by answering their questions. So, what can be done now?
Can end the webinar now. Sorry.
Okay, let's end the webinar. Thank you so much. I hope you all enjoyed the webinar. So, see you in another webinar next.